Let's talk about repurposing everyday items like plastic cups and paper bowls and paper plates, newspapers and magazines and cereal boxes into engaging art projects for students. Hi, my name is Renae Green, and I'm an elementary and intermediate art teacher in South Central Pennsylvania. Welcome to the Art of Education University's Zero Budget Art Room, where we celebrate your ingenuity and help you make the most of your budget, all while spending zero out of pocket. In part 2 of Cardboard, we talked about assemblage sculpture, and we made a multi-compartment box. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about what you can fill it with. So in this box here, we just have fill from a package that kind of look like little cheese triangles. And then we have puzzles, which I feel like are always sitting outside on some free table at the end of the year. Some bubble wands and clothespins, and the packaging from watercolor refills. Now, I also encourage students to bring things in from home when we do this project, just so it's more personal to them. But you always have to prepare for students that might not bring anything in from home. And what I'll normally do is I'll put a container out with an object inside of it, and I'll put a little sign on it that says, like, you could take 3 of these, or you could take 5 of these. You can either have them spray paint it in a spray booth if you have that option available. I do not have a spray booth here. So it would either be them using paint with brushes, which gets a little bit finicky, or you could take them outside and spray paint them. I've placed them in copy boxes before and had them spray. Just check your school's guidelines for spray paint and students. It's now recess, and I realized that I abandoned my project out here all day. So let's pick it up. And it survived. No one messed with it. And they see me. This next hack comes from my friend Nyla, and you will absolutely be going to the grocery store and asking for a ton of paper bags, because you can easily turn these into the best portfolios for your students. What we're gonna do is we're gonna turn it on its side, and we're gonna cut off this edge right here. And then we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. And then we're gonna open our bag, bending in the bottom so it's wider and can fit artwork. We are going to do ours like a graffiti style. So we're gonna start with our brick wall. Just go in with a lighter value and add a little hint on 2 of the sides. All right, and now we're gonna take watercolor, and we are just gonna go in and on the opposite 2 sides, add a quick and brief shadow. And after students are done with their brick walls, we'll go ahead and work on our tags. All right, and when our tag is done, we'll cut it out and we'll put it on our bag. I always have the kids take liquid watercolor and just spray the outside just to make it blend in with the background a little bit more. And there we go, we're all done. For more lesson ideas using recycled items, try upcycled wearables or recycled paper abstract collage from Flex Curriculum. Flex is a standards-aligned curriculum with tons of lesson plans. They include step-by-step instructions, project photos, and student-facing handouts like found object menus and types of papers. And if you're not a Flex user, head on over to our website, which we'll link in the description box down below, for more information on how to get Flex for your district. So on top of reaching out to my colleagues and my students for a newspaper collection, I've also called local newspaper companies. And in the past, I've been given both like extra newspapers that weren't needed, but they've also given me rolls of newsprint paper where I guess it got too low for the machines to run. And they're great for table coverings too, because then you don't even have to mess with unrolling or unfolding newspapers. You just literally roll it out. Our secretary here, who is incredible, her daughter delivers the newspaper. There are newspapers that are extras after they're done delivering, and so they would bring me in all of the extras. So focusing on repurposing items, my 6th grade are currently making kusama mushrooms. So each student was given a paper bowl, a plastic cup, a paper plate, and some newspaper. And so then once they had their armature built, they went ahead to paper macheing. And for paper mache, I used to have students cut the strips of paper, but I just don't have that time anymore. So I started cutting it on the paper cutter, and it has been a lifesaver. And so each table will have a tray full of the paper that we just cut. And so what I find helpful is that I feel like I always have more than enough, because we never go through everything that we cut. And so when I do paper mache again, I have some just sitting back here that I can start the project off with and then add to if I need to. So first things first, we cover all of the tables with newspaper, and usually I'll have the class before the class paper macheing, so a different grade level, help me do that. And every table gets a container of glue and water and a tray filled with cut up newspaper. And once again, lunch trays are my favorite thing. I have undivided ones and divided ones, and Tupperwares are a close second because you can get quite a few of them for fairly cheap at the store. Remember, just because items are cheap or super affordable does not mean that you need to buy them. There are a lot of ways to secure what you want and need for your students in classroom and still spend zero out of pocket. So stay tuned for our last episode where we talk all about asking for help. All right, this ends our first day of paper mache on the armatures that the kids made for their mushrooms. But some got really creative too with their actual setup. So what I do is I put out bulletin board paper and put the teacher's name on it. And then each student gets a paper plate that they write their name on and put their sculpture on top of. And we are going to use them for our Scholastic Showcase. So we're gonna blacklight out the art room and have a glowing field of like neon mushrooms everywhere. And I'm so excited. And aside from using newspaper to build an armature for paper mache or for paper mache itself, you can also use it to build an armature for clay projects. And I recently did that with one of my grade levels where we built these winter trees and we used newspaper to create the cones inside of them. So they basically stood their armature up and then they rolled their coils and flattened them out and started wrapping. This was inside of our trees. So the next day, once this was completely wrapped, we pulled this out. I always have my kids, before they take their ceramics home, wrap them up. That way they have a better chance of surviving everything else that's in their backpacks. And for more information on repurposing supplies, read How to Embrace Limitations to Tap into Creativity with Your Students, to discover how constraints such as budgets can actually fuel creativity. Or you can listen to our teachers chat about the importance of being resourceful. We'll add direct links to these resources down in the description box below. So we've gone over what we can do with newspaper in the art room, but I want to share my second paper product love, which totally goes to toilet paper and napkins. What's awesome is that I've had to buy very little napkins throughout the years. I feel like I'm always given things at the end and kind of odds and ends that they haven't used through the year or that are left over from different social events. And I also always have my students dot the napkin from the center, and then that's where we begin our design. I also have them flip it over and just make sure that the ink has gone through, and then we open up our napkin and we have a really cool radial design. This is 1 ply, but in the past I've gotten 2 ply napkins, and it takes a little more effort when dotting, but then when they're done, they can peel apart those 2 plies and they have 2 of the exact same designs, and then they can trade with other students in the class. So the radial napkins are my go-to for the end of the year, but you can also make amazing paper flowers with napkins too. So the first step is I'm gonna take my napkin and I'm going to fold it. Now how you fold it is completely up to you. You can do a simple fan fold, or you can do a fan fold but kind of with like a cone approach. So you are folding it like this. And then once you have them folded, you are going to color. Then I'm gonna spray it with a water bottle. And then we are gonna carefully open them. This is also an awesome way to make tissue paper if you don't have it in your budget. Okay, our napkins have dried, so now we're gonna turn them into flowers. So now we're gonna cut them into 4 squares, and we have our green ones here. We're gonna put these here. And we're gonna fan fold, but before we do that, we wanna have some string ready to tie it with. So we're just gonna do a regular fan fold. And then we're gonna tie it right in the middle. We want it to be as even as possible on the sides, but leave it loose, and that way if you need to adjust it later, you can. And then what we're gonna do up here is we are gonna cut it into a point. And we're gonna loosen it. And then at this point, we're just gonna fluff it all up. I just left the bottom alone. That way we would have like a little base for the flower, and you just get the most beautiful flower. And you could do so many things with these. Okay, we've talked about napkins. Now let's talk about toilet paper. I am so here for toilet paper sculptures because toilet paper is so cheap and you don't even need the fancy toilet paper for this. So we're gonna do toilet paper food, and we're gonna do breakfast because I love breakfast and I feel like I don't get to eat enough of it. So what I'm gonna do first is the egg. And I wanna get a bunch of flat pieces together, and then I'm gonna rip my egg shape. I'm going to rip more toilet paper and wet it, and this is going to wrap around that dry inside that I created. I'm gonna make the yolk, so I'm gonna crumble up some toilet paper, and then I'm gonna wrap this in wet toilet paper. So just like we created the base, but now we're doing the yolk. And I'm just gonna put 1 piece to smooth over it. So bacon's gonna be pretty similar. I'm gonna roll a bunch of toilet paper and layer it. So I'm thinking like a few strips. And then I'm gonna wet this. And once I rip it into strips, I'm just gonna lay it on another paper plate the way that I want my bacon to kind of curl. And now we're gonna build our pancakes. And I'm just going for a circular shape. So it's been a patient few days waiting for our paper food sculpture to dry, and now we're gonna paint them. And to paint them, I'm just gonna use watercolor. All right, and now we have all of our components for our toilet paper food sculpture, and we are going to arrange it on our plate. What artists use recycled materials? Or what are some items to start collecting? What projects can you do with upcycled plastic? Pro Learning has you covered. Pro is an on-demand PD for art teachers that has hands-on tutorials resources, and strategies. If you're a pro member, watch the pack on creating with recycled materials. And if you're not a pro member, use the link down in the description box to head on over to our website and find out more information on how to get pro for your district. So we've talked about quite a few paper products like newspapers and napkins and toilet paper, but we can't forget about magazines because they're another great resource to have in the art room that can easily be repurposed into a bunch of projects, from collages to paper beads. And so they just want to cut their strips in a way that they're angled, and I'm going to put glue, and I'm just going to glue these 3 together. And then I'm going to flip it, and I'm going to start at the end right here, and I'm going to put it around my bamboo skewer. And I'm going to do it toward the end so it's easy in a short distance to slide off, and just roll. And because you've set it like a cone, it will get more narrow in the middle. So I leave like a little tail like that, and then I just take my glue, and then I just roll it in my finger. And then once my bead is on there, all I'm gonna do is just gently pull it off, and the finished bead is done. What are some other everyday items that you love to repurpose in the art room that weren't discussed here today? Tell us down below in the comments. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss an episode in our Zero Budget Art Room series. Our next episode will focus all on asking for help. And asking for help can be a really daunting experience, but we have some really great ways to gain support for your art room and your budget.